Welcome back to Open Line. A good discussion, several calls. Let's just go right back to the phones. Let's go to Brian. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Brian, how are you doing? What's on your mind?
Pretty good, a little cold out. Hey, I think these guys know that right on the edge of Nashville, like Bellevue, where it goes right past the Bellevue exit, it's the Natchez Trace exit, the next one. I think that's right at the Davis County border. And when I'm coming in, I live out in the country towards there, and when I'm coming in, there's always 3 or 4 big cop SUVs, and they're those guys, and they're in that Southern Regional Task Force thing. And out in Dixon County, when you go a little farther west in Fort, it's going towards Memphis, they're always pulling people over, and half the time, like Lucy said, they're pulling people over, and they don't have nothing on them, but they'll have a large amount of cash. And a lot of people, sometimes immigrants, sometimes not, that they're moving from one part of the country to another, and stupidly, they'll have like $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 on them, like their life savings. And there's been stories of people getting it all taken. Sometimes I'm getting it back later, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes they are drug dealers, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're guys that have sold their drugs and they're coming back to Nashville. So that's a weird spot. And let me know if the officer and if she knows. I always see, and I saw a lady in a big SUV, and she was a government lady with them, and they were definitely doing some stuff out there. So is that a hot spot of it? That's I know you're National Davidson, and she's with the feds, combining with you guys, but that's a hot spot out there, isn't it? And I'm just hanging out in the country in my own business.
All right, well, let's talk about that. People have seen that. I think it has been documented in some stories, certainly here on Channel 5. What do you have to say about how that's different or the same or whatever you want to say there?
Sure. Well, one of the main reasons it's different just on the front end is that wouldn't be Metro police officers. You know, McCrory Lane is the last exit in Davidson County, so the caller's right. The exit beyond that, you start to get in the Natchez Trace area and out toward Dixon and different places like that where different drug task force officers may be operating. I don't think it's necessarily a secret. I-40, you know, the main thoroughfare that runs west to east all throughout the state of Tennessee. The more unfortunate thing about I-40 is how it directly ties in down to our other southern states such as Louisiana and Texas and things like that, and can get directly to the border. And we have Mexico and different challenges like that. So, and even east of Tennessee, moving on through Tennessee to go up throughout the East Coast. So obviously I-40 would be considered one of the main thoroughfares for the state and the city, you know, in terms of drug trafficking per se, along with several other interstates, I should say, as well. So, you know, enforcement efforts are done out there for a variety of reasons, but that's not our officers doing that in that particular area that he's talking about. But you know, stops are made on the interstates for a variety of reasons.
And Councilwoman, I'm not sure if he thought you were with the federal government. You're here with the Metro Council.
I am here with the Metro Council.
Where this was debated, and it was a spirited debate, but it passed by a healthy margin.
It did. It did.
And is it renewed every year?
Yes, so this will come up for renewal again next year. Yes.
And how is it that you sponsored it? Why of all the council members, did you sponsor it?
Well, so I'm the lead sponsor primarily because I'm a budget and finance chair, and I believe the co-sponsor is the chair of, I believe, public safety. I don't want to mess up who was the co-sponsor, but I believe it came through the public safety committee also. Again, this is an agreement that we've had as a city. This isn't new, but what's important for the public to understand that this program is totally different from the state program, and I can't stress enough that this is about eliminating distribution networks for our city as it relates to drug trafficking.
All right, let's go to Joel. Hello, Joel. Are you there, Joel?
Joe? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Joe.
Oh, I was just wondering, you know, if somebody's stopped, has a traffic stop, and he's in possession of like $5,000-$10,000 that legitimately in possession of that money, how hard is it for him to get that money back, or does he?
That's a great question, and that's the concern that people have, and that's where the focus of several stories has been. So let's say somebody is traveling around town here in Nashville. They're pulled over. They have $10,000 in cash. Maybe they just want to go buy a car. Maybe they're not the worst. You know, they're not a bad guy. Okay, but they have a bunch of big cash in their car. What happens? Obviously, more than one call has referenced that amount of money and that situation. So address that for those callers.
Sure. Well, again, that and that alone, it would take much more evidence, admissions. Maybe a person's already part of an ongoing case. So there's a lot of different factors that can come into play. Just the simple mere fact of someone having an amount of money, that and that alone, obviously would not necessitate any sort of arrest or action. There has to be some corroborating tie into a criminal case. And again, so for our particular efforts, the corroboration is already tied into drugs and a large amount of them before we ever encounter any property whatsoever to deal with.
It's not you find the cash and then you say, wait, this may be drugs. It's that you have an investigation that's far along with a federal agency. That's what, Councilman, you keep mentioning. This is not just the Metro Police Department, in this case, what was just approved by the council, going out and saying, here's some money, I think that's drug money, and we're going to seize it. It's a federal.
It's federal, yeah.
Sure.
Investigation.
Yeah, this federal cases that move up through the federal system, so there will be much more involved in the cases that we are talking about as opposed to the example that was given there. And, you know, and quite frankly, the money and the assets and the property, none of those are our primary purpose. So in other words, if we go an entire year and intercept large amounts of dope before they ever enter our city and never seize one single dollar, that's great. We just want the drugs before they can continue to kill our citizens.
All right, let's go to Art. Hello, Art.
I want to commend Captain Vickery and Council Lady. They've given a very, very good explanation of what goes on. Captain Vickery is very knowledgeable of the program. I've witnessed a number of things in the judicial system, and there's no hit and grab on these things. Certain people think that. That's just not the way it is. It goes through a lot of systems. Most of those folks are identified because they've been observed over a period of time before anything's grabbed them. This $40,000 or $30,000, people walk around with that amount of money all the time. But they don't walk around with 600,000 or 700,000, and that's what it is most of the time. Now, they just caught some guy at the airport with $100,000 and 5 bags of wrapped up marijuana at the airport. The airport did that. There's a lot of drugs, as Captain has already said, coming from west to east to bring drugs through here. And I know that their mission is to stop those drugs from getting here. And when something is seized, it takes a long time before it's done, and they find a connection to where they got that money. And in most cases, those places that are seized, there's some distribution point of where that stuff is stored and elsewhere. So all right, well, I'm well aware of what they do and how they do it, and I commend both of the people on the show for what they've said and how they've done. And there's just a misunderstanding about this hit and grab, because that's not the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. We should always be vigilant. I mean, there should always be questions and that kind of thing. And I fear I have not done a good job of introducing you all, because he just called you Captain Vickery, Captain Alexander.
That's okay.
And someone else thought you were with the federal government and you're with the Metro Council. So, so there we go. All right, we'll take a break, come back, wrap everything up. Be back right after this.